Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
One thing that I want to make sure we do first. I know how I pronounce the names, but I want you to tell me how we pronounce the three main characters that we have right now.
So our main character, that'd be Eúdann, who is our young man who's just trying to figure out how to be a man. Then we have Vounée, who is his childhood friend, and she's trying to figure out her own things. And then there's Tshar, who is the person trying to hunt them down. So she's our antagonist for the novel.
Okay. I have a crush on Tshar,
Sure.
just like Vounée does. How do you say it? Vounée?
Tshar, it's Vounée.
Vounée. Okay, cool.
Vounée. That's how I'd say it.
I just wrote it down because I want to pronounce it the way you do. I know you give the readers freedom to pronounce it however they want, but I really like to have the author's pronunciation in my head too. So it was really funny. One thing that really struck me was, like I said earlier, the connection that you make between the world and the religion and the culture and the traditions with the characters, and how they just, especially the way they curse, and call out the names of random gods depending on the situation, and that just cracks me up. So with the world building and the different characters just talking about the different gods, first of all, it's fascinating to me to see them be afraid of the forest, and I didn't know why, so it got me curious, of course. And then introducing the worms with WYRMS, and then I'm like, okay, worm but not worm, that kind of thing. So what do you think, like, did you base your characters off of people you knew, or was it kind of a combination of different inspirations?
That's just drawing from archetypes. I mean, Eúdann's very much a young man, just like 18 or whatever, who I remember what that was like. So it's pretty easy for him. He's just he doesn't understand that he's not immortal and invincible. He kind of thinks he can do anything. He's got this sort of brash confidence that lets him throw himself into danger, and and if he's lucky, he'll survive. And if he's not, well,
he feels like
that's
the
life.
Gryffindor.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, he's
charge
definitely a
of
Gryffindor. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I know he ends up having the foundation power, or do you call it power?
Sorcery.
Say again.
Sorcery.
Sorcery, right.
Yeah.
So he has the foundation sorcery, but it's introduced so delicately. It's like he happens to be able to pull a root out of the ground and hit the monster in the forest, and you could, the way it's described, he thinks he just, of course we think of adrenaline rushes. Oh, well,
he just had that. Yeah, he's life or death, and he just had a burst of adrenaline, did something he didn't think he could do. But
right, and then it's breaking the chains, and then he's like, well, it could have been rusted, and so you as a reader, you're thinking, yeah, maybe it could have been, maybe, and then later, I can't remember the next thing he did, but I was like, okay, no, there's some kind of power going on here.
Definitely.
Yeah, so to hear his story and to know, throughout the book, wondering about his dad and thinking, okay, his dad died in a fire, he was saving people, yay dad. And then to find out actually, those people turned on him. It's always, you always have an interesting backstory with really good characters. It's always, when a good character is in a book, I define good by mystery. I know just enough about them to follow their story, but there's so much mystery that I still want to know. So I call her Vounée. With Vounée, when she was first, like when she was getting Eúdann to go see the little laundry girls, the washer girls. And she was pointing out, ooh, look at the bust on that one, things like that. At first, I was kind of laughing at that, and I thought it was cute. And oh, she's trying to, help her like friend who's like a brother find a girl, that kind of thing. And then eventually, I was like, wait a minute, and I aligned with her. I understood. I'm a girl who likes girls, and so when I was listening to this conversation she was having, I was like, this is starting to sound familiar. And so I actually had sent a message to Michael Evan and I said, I think Vounée is in my camp. And he said, yep. So that's where he said, I think she has a crush on Tshar Ruan. And I was like, who is that? Because I had not gotten to that part of the book yet. And he said, you're not there yet? I was like, no. I said, I already figured it out. They were just washing the washerwomen and I already knew. And he was like, oh, I didn't know. So I love that you were able to put those thoughts in her head of, is something wrong with me? Why don't I like this boy back? I mean, he's so good to me. I'm just curious how you were able to kind of tap into those thoughts, because that's something that I've never really written about myself, and it's my own experience.
Obviously I'm not a girl who likes girls or even a guy that likes guys, but what I do understand is not feeling like I'm the same as everyone else, like I belong, like there's something about me that's different from everyone around me, and why aren't I feel like everyone else? And so it's just tapping into that, that sort of feeling feeling like the other, and trying to just figure out like, yeah, like why aren't I like everyone else?
Yeah.
Like why don't I like what everyone else likes? Why don't I, etc. That's, so it just kind of was tapping into that, and then just turning it to a different into a sort of a different way, instead of feeling like, why aren't I into sports, or all the stuff like high school kids were, that, well, I would rather just like read books or whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah. So it was just extrapolating and trying to imagine, and also trying to just imagine, I'm trying to put myself into Vounée's shoes and trying to understand, like what is expected of me versus what I feel. And so that's kind of like, that's something that's there, right? It's she, she's in a very small remote village. She does like, she's not even like aware of like her own sexuality, really. She just feels like she doesn't have the sexuality that she should have. And it confuses her. And, because she likes she likes Eúdann very much as a brother. Right. And they're living in a culture where, you're expected to get married, right, when you're 18, 19, because it's a hard life. You're up in the mountains. Infant mortality rate being what they are, women, they need to have like, you need to just replace the population, and that means having more than 2 kids, right? Because you're going to lose a few in childbirth, and that's hard on a woman, like having to, those medieval times when you had to do all that hard labor just running a household. You needed like a husband to help, out there working the fields to get resources while you're, because you have little kids to do it, you're pregnant, it's very hard. It's very much different from modern times. And so it's just sort of like it's just expected of her, and she doesn't understand why she's not feeling it back. Because like, if she had to choose one of the village boys to marry, it would be Eúdann, but she's just, where is this like passion? Where is this desire? It's not there.
Right.
Just,
and what I love is that the dragon recognized it first.
yes, the dragon, she's very much understood. She's like, yeah, no, this is not going to work out with you and Eúdann. She's like, no, it will. It'll work out. I'll make it work. It's like, it's not. You're both going to get hurt by it in the long run.
And I love when, whether you want to call her the goddess of healing or Lady Petrification, I'm still undecided right now, because I like the dragon. She cracks me up. I think she's a Slytherin. I don't know, but she cracks me up, and I like how she talks. But I know they're supposed to be the bad guys right now. I'm still undecided. But I think that hearing her say, "Oh, I see a spark of passion in you even now," and Vouney's like, "I don't know who it could be for." And then immediately she starts thinking about Tshar again. And I'm like,
Yeah.
put it together, put it together.
Yeah, it's fun doing that. And the stuff in the Echo Mountains was a lot of fun too, with Vouney and Eúdann as their
Oh,
thoughts
yes.
are echoing around. I had a lot of fun writing that. That was
Oh, I
just,
bet so. I could not go into the Echo Mountains. I would be
I know
terrified.
that place is horrifying.
And it's like it's not like there's monsters or anything. It's just your own thoughts echoing around and whoo, out loud.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like when Ruan goes in and she's hearing their thoughts, but then she dismisses it like that could be 100-year-old thought. It's probably not even. And I'm like, no, that's them. I know, I know who that is.
yeah, yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
And the monks. I mean, they're not called monks, but
Yeah, they're monks. I don't probably should have called them. They're in a monastery, so they're technically monks. Yeah,
yeah, I guess so. Okay. Um, seeing the dynamic of how you place the monastery in the middle of the Echo Mountains, and then they like the whole thing when they first got there, and it was just dinner, 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 dinner. I was like, that's super creepy. And then realizing they're trying so hard, and this is one of those like messages that you put in there but don't necessarily mean to put there. It just comes out. But just the idea that they are trying so hard to focus on the present moment, but it's not like a meditative, this is what I need to do for my inner health. This is I'm focusing on the present moment so that I don't have to think about anything else. I don't have to think about my past. I don't have to think about my regrets, and then
yeah,
for Eúdann and Vounée to stay there, and when they go to sleep, all of a sudden all these tortured voices just start playing over and over all these things. That's just, it's terrifying to think of living that life. But
yeah.
it's also very poignant and very strong. There's a strong message there too.
It just came out of like who would be these people that would willingly be here, and that's kind of where I kind of got. They're trying to like get this discipline where they can pretend that their past didn't happen. Yeah, I feel a great deal of pity for these monks, especially as I was writing them, because yeah, we all have our regrets, and we all, they sometimes you just can't shrug them off, even when they're really dumb little things. But
True.
yeah, but like the real hard guilt, yeah, that's so I don't know. That's just how I think of things. I'm like, who would be here? And then I'm like, well, it would be these sort of guys. So how can I use that to make the story more impactful?
Right. Another interesting thing I found was the shrubmen, and that's the name of the race in general, right? Shrubmen.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
what the humans call them.
Oh, okay, okay. What I love about them is how you inserted two shrubmen who basically were the rebels who said we're not going to mate because that means becoming one with the female literally, and they're like basically a two-headed shrub, and they have to do things together. And I was just like, that is really cool to me because it's kind of flipping the dynamic that we're used to. We're used to the woman kind of having to, take on the man's name, be in the man's house, be given away to the man, all those kind of things that we've grown up with. And then to see that it's kind of flipped, and it's like the males are like, no, I'm not going to give my whole life away like that. So how did
Yeah.
how did that come to be? That's really interesting to me.
Well, I wanted to do some plant characters, and I'm like, there's something about plants that basically they sort of grow together. Like, you need a male vine and a female vine, and they sort of entwine about each other, and that's how they exist. So I was like, well, what would that be like if there's a race that the male and females literally had to do that, for that's how their species like procreates, right? They
Right.
Yeah, they get really close together, and the male releases pollen, and the females, flower collects it, and then
Right.
right. So I was like, okay. And so I was like, well, let's make just flip on the gender, uh, because humans are we're sexually dimorphic, right? So males and females are different. And so I was
Right.
like, well, let's flip it, like, because you have species, right? There's species where the males are bigger on Earth, of animals or plants. And so what if it's the females that are bigger in the species, by quite a bit, and that the males kind of become almost parasites on them in a way,
Right.
as they
Right.
kind of, yeah, as they kind of, so they have to form this like symbiosis. And I kind of felt it was very plant, right? Because plants like to just stay in one place. They're not the most active things, right? So I was
Right.
like, okay, they could come together. Maybe their psychology is kind of more suited to this, because like, the human, because we will, in the book too, there is an actual shrubman couple that are grafted together,
Right.
that are main characters, Dao and Thaf. And so I do like go into them, and to them it's like very normal that they're together, right? This is just how they do. And Thaf, he's the male. He does kind of have to, there are times when he can get a little frustrated with his lack of independence.
Really.
Um, but and it actually that's a very big part of book seven's
Okay.
plot, actually. Or it's a very, yeah, it's, anyways, we won't go into that. But in book seven
Right.
they have some marital issues that have to
Okay.
stem with their situation. But for the most part, they find it as a very natural thing, um, and they see it as like a partnership. That, so you have to be very careful in who you want to make sure you're picking the right person to graft with, because they physically are like become almost one creature, where they actually have some of their roots, some of their vines will actually grow together, and so there's some sharing of nutrients and stuff. And
Okay.
so they really are. It's really hard. It's really hard for them to come apart once they do this. And
Right.
and they get stronger together, because he like strengthens her body and allows her to grow her vines more in her legs and arms, while he supports the torso more. So it does actually make the female stronger than she would be apart from him. So, and he, and also I gave all the male shrubs sorcery, so they do have magic.
Oh
So
yeah.
the females don't get any magic, and all the males do get magic. So there is also that
Okay.
dynamic. So they're not completely,
It's a good
useless
balance.
appendages. Yeah. So I like that, and it was just a different way to explore different alien life from humans. I
Mhm.
like to do that. I like to try to make them, not just humans that are plants, right? They're
Right.
different. They find humans weird. They're like, it's weird that you guys could just mate with anybody, and you seem so casual about it at times.
Right.
Uh, you know, and so yeah, so it's fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's just fun exploring these things. It's why I like fantasy.
Yeah, that's I love that. And I was just telling my partner yesterday, I said, what I love about this is to try to explain this story to someone just raw. It sounds weird because I'm like, well, they're shrub people. I mean, it's like, but it's cool, and it's hard to, but like when you read it, it eases you into it and explains it in a way where it's like, yeah, of course they're shrub people. I mean, duh, and that it just makes sense. And um, I love that and I know it's got to be tough to use the they pronoun for the worms with them being intersex, and that's got to be tricky, but I love it because that's something that um, I'm actually part of a group at work that celebrates LGBTQIA plus people. And so there's a lot of people involved that use different kinds of pronouns. And I'm not used to that, especially being in the culture that I live in the South. That's just not something that we really grew up with at all. And so when someone says I use they pronouns, it's so hard for me to keep up with that. But to read your book and to have that in practice and to see, okay, to keep up with it and to say, we're not talking about more than one person. We're talking about this worm right here, and it's a they, and I love that.
Yeah. It was quite a challenge. I found when I was writing, especially very early on, I would want to just give the worm either a male or female pronoun. And it was just a
Right.
subconscious thing. Like, I wouldn't do it on purpose, because I'd have to go and fix it. And it was frustrating when I realized I had once again slipped into using the wrong pronouns. And so I'm finding so many of them on like my rewrites and editing, and because there is going to be a worm character that will join the party, to kind of
Oh,
explore
good.
their culture, right? Yeah, they're intersexual hermaphrodites because they're worms, right? So I based them off of earthworms, which are often, hermaphrodites in our world. They're natural. They
Right.
they find humans weird that you only get one thing. You don't get like
Get
because the
one?
worms are like,
Yeah.
yeah, the worms can both be father and mother even at the same time in their marriages, right? They can experience that
Right.
together,
Oh,
right? So
wow. That's
yeah,
interesting. So
yeah. So that's
oh, go ahead.
sorry, I don't know what I was going to say.
Sorry about that. I just, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, we talked about now you said the shrubmen, that's what the humans call them. So what do they call themselves? Do they have a name for
Um, yeah, they have. Well, there's five different. What, there's four different races of shrub men. So they just call themselves that. It's like and they call the humans humans, and um, they're hard to say. Their plant names have lots of vowels and stuff to them.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
I honestly don't remember because I don't really only deal with one of their species, which is
Okay.
Thophan and Dao. We do meet another one of their races in the later books, but we just happen to be passing through the lines, and so they're very minor
Right.
characters. And just how I separated their population, we don't actually meet the other variations of them at all, actually,
Oh, okay.
because they live in
But
like
I
the
like
sun. We
that
don't.
they're there
They're there, yeah, they're definitely there.
because it gives you a sense of mystery about like the world can still expand. There's still more that I can learn. Like even if you go all the way through all the books and we just know that they exist, but we don't explore their whole world, I feel like that's okay. It's kind of like an open world video game that there's a little more to it, but you got to wait on the sequel, or it's just
Yeah,
it's there
yeah.
and you don't have to be part of it. You just enjoy that the world is bigger than you've explored.
There's a whole continent that doesn't even appear in the books. Yeah, not at all. And like they have like a race of humans that there's like one, you only ever meet one of them in the entire series. You know.
So I love also like I'm not great with visualizing when I read. I would have to stop and like draw it to really get it in my head. But I know that uh Vounée and I keep saying her name wrong, and Eúdann, they have is it blue hair and purple eyes?
That's Vounée. She has blue hair and purple eyes, whereas he's just got black hair and green eyes. They both have tan skin, so like not yeah, so like a light brown.
Okay, okay. And then Charon is yellow eyes.
Yeah, she's got yellow eyes, black hair, and she's sort of a darker brown, like sort of maybe red brown, something like from the Indian subcontinent in our world. Some of the darker skin tones you could get.
Okay.
Yeah, is about where she's at.
I love that. Like I feel like I could see anime characters just colored in this in this way,
Yeah, I mean, that's what's fun about it. Like you can have weird colors that don't exist. I mean, there's a reason why blue hair isn't a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Because like blue is a very rare color in nature. Um, in fact, it's so rare that most of the time you see like blue, it's actually a trick of how like their
Oh,
scales or feathers are created that causes them to absorb light and reflect it weirdly. So it's not actually,
interesting.
yeah, to mimic blue where there's not actual true blue pigment to them.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Kind of like a raven.
Yeah. It's like yeah, it's some birds like any birds that's got blue feathers. That's actually their feathers just scatter blue light. It's how they're
Mm,
designed. So it's like why the sky looks blue is the same reason their feathers look blue.
that's really cool. I love that kind of, well, you may not have researched that. You may have just known
No,
that, but
I
I
just
love
learned that
that.
like after I wrote this books.
Really?
I learned that like 2 months ago.
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, it's amazing to me how books can really, you have to use your imagination to write them, but at the same time they can inspire your imagination as well. And when I was reading, it's like as I hear about your different creatures in your book, I start to think I wonder what other kind of creatures are out there. What could I create? And so I love the cycle of creativity where you have someone who creates and someone else who might illustrate what you create, and then someone who makes music based off those illustrations, and somebody who, dances to the music. And I love that cycle of creativity. And I know for me, well, you've seen on the Facebook page on Fantasy and Sci-Fi Focus, anytime you put out a dragon image, like poetry just pops in my head, and I want to write about it, and that's something that I've noticed is art for me is, I guess, my muse. That's something that when I see something that just intrigues me like that obviously has a story behind it, it brings out that creativity in me. I have a friend who does sketches, and he does a fabulous job. And I've told him we need to publish something together, because anytime he sketches something and sends it to me, it's just like something pops in my head and it comes out. So is there anything like that inspires you, like art, music, anything like that starts you writing?
No, yeah, definitely. Like music can be very inspirational. Like just reading a book or seeing a movie or just hearing a news story and just going like, well, what if I took that and did this to it or whatever? So yeah, like everything is inspiring to me.
Oh,
Like
that's
I can
awesome.
find it. Yeah, I'll find inspiration anywhere.
Well, that is really cool. I like it. I like it. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. I think your book was one that at work I have to go up and down stairs a lot, and I use the elevator most of the time. And I grab, like, I'll have my phone, and I had your book on my phone, and I would read it like half a page, just on the elevator going up, just because I was just trying to soak it in. And so any chance that I got, I was reading, because it was just fascinating to me. Oh, and one part that I am intrigued by is when Ruan looked at Eúdann and was like, with a little training, you could, while she's like trying to kill him, she's like, if only you had some training, you could be really good. And I'm like, okay, something's going to develop from that. I don't know what, but she didn't die, he didn't die, and she thinks he'd be good if he was trained. So I feel like they're going to figure out how to get along, and then she's going to train him, but I don't know. That's my theory. So that's my going theory right now. And I'm really interested to see how Vounée and Tshar end up together. If they end up together, I don't know, but that would be beautiful, because she and I both have a crush on Tshar. And so I love how she describes her as, like, she just keeps throwing stuff out that Eúdann is like, what do you mean she's beautiful? And she's like, I mean, she's beautiful, but like, she's evil too.
Yeah.
I
Just
love
like
that.
she's trying to hunt us down and kill us. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no,
she's so
that's
good at it. Yes, I
yeah.
love it. I love it. I can't wait to see how that develops. So, well, we are almost at 7 o'clock. And I wanted to see if there's anything else you wanted to share about Foundation of Courage before we go.
Well, Foundation of Courage, it's an adventure. It's a coming of age fantasy adventure about Eúdann and Vounée as they're trying to figure out how to be how to be people, how to be adults, how to deal with problems, and to get the soul of an maybe evil dragon out of Vounée,
Maybe.
while being hunted by an evil cabal that wants to destroy the world, to destroy the gods, and to bring back the dragons. So yeah, so it's figuring out who you are while running for your life from Tosh to Ruan and the apostasy. It's 12 books. They will all be published one every 3 weeks, starting February 21st. And so they will all be out by October. So it's a little daunting where I'm in editing. I'm on my second draft of book 6, or my third draft of book 6. So they're all written. I just have to get them polished up and get my editor on them. So let's hope we can
Okay.
make it.
I cannot wait. I'm very excited about book 2, and I hope we can talk again after book 2, because I would love to Yeah, I would love to follow the series. This is awesome. So, well, thank you very, very much for coming on to Write Me Poetry Publishing and being a part of this. You mentioned Zai earlier, and Michael Evan mentioned that Zai was one of his favorite characters, and I just wanted to throw that out there and give him a shout out and a thank you to Michael Evan for helping us meet and get together for this interview. And I hope everybody will visit Fantasy and Sci-Fi Focus, as well as James's website and pages as well. So I will link those in the bottom of this video so that you can explore. All right, James.
It was really great being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hope you have a great night and
Hey, you too.
talk to you later.